All right, looks like we're live. Welcome back slash welcome to um the inaugural episode of kind of inaugural episode of Blerding While Dad. I've always had it in the back of my mind, and it's been a little segment that I've done reflecting on the musings of being a black nerd and a parent. But now we're kind of taking that idea and spinning it off into its own thing. I got a logo up in the corner if you can see it. And on today's episode, we are going to discuss the Recast T'Challa discussion that's going on the internet and wherever else my ADHD-addled brain takes us. So that's what we got on today's episode. Like, share, and subscribe. And if you leave a comment, leave a name so that I can see who you are. So what we'll do is we're going to throw it to the intro. Once I figure out the interface on here, we'll throw it to the intro and get back to you in a moment. All right. Blerding While Dad. The concept behind Blerding While Dad has been kind of in formation for the last almost year and a half. And so I took some time off from doing my regular podcast and streaming and stuff like that. And I wanted to take a break before I got too far into it and had to pull a 180 on you. But I wanted to rebrand. The idea behind the rebranding is combining being a parent, being a black nerd. And so I wanted to really have a hodgepodge of different interests that aligned. And I know that that's not the best idea. You're supposed to niche down on one specific thing, but for me, that doesn't work. I talk about a lot of different things. So instead of doing a big long introduction episode, I had it all scripted out, planned out, and all the other stuff. I'm just going to dive right into it. Some housekeeping stuff first. I'm working to try to build out a community on YouTube. I already have a community on Facebook, that I need to pour more energy into. And so this is my reintroduction into it. And the podcast is going to be restarting with this episode. I'm gonna cut this episode down and make an audio version of this. And so I'm still learning how to do the video podcast and at the same time do the audio podcast. So it might seem a little bit wonky. So please bear with me through that. Couple of other things that popped up in the nerd sphere. Brand new news for me. Just saw that WWE released Jeff Hardy. I know that there might be some, he has a history of substances. I really hope he gets the help he needs. According to Sean Ross Sapp, um, the company actually did offer him some help and he turned it down. And so they went ahead and released him. Hopefully Jeff Hardy gets the help that he needs, because we know how, Dark Side of the Ring it has an entire, is a testament to how sideways things could turn in the wrestling business. So hopefully he can get the help that he needs. I do have other wrestling episodes planned in the future. But today's episode specifically, I want to talk about the Recast T'Challa movement, if that's what we call it. I know that there's a lot of people online that are very, very passionate about this, and the arguments that have spiraled off of this have ranged from intelligent kind of debates to people just absolutely slandering each other. It's been vitriolic, if to say the least. So I wanted to drop my 2 cents in on the concept of recasting T'Challa after Chadwick Boseman's passing. And I have a more nuanced view of the whole thing than some of the other takes that I've seen, but I know how people get on the internet. One of the things I will put out there, since this is going to live on the internet, if you lead with an insult, I'm not going to engage with you. Life's too short for that shit. I'm not going. I'm really not going to do that. I'm not going to uh, engage in a conversation where somebody leads with the insult. And a lot of times, specifically around this thing, which seems to be kind of a hot button issue for some, that's normally the first bag that people dig into when they encounter a dissenting opinion. So that being said, Recast T'Challa. Um, I'm not going to get into all the backstory and give dates and all that other stuff. Uh, the reality is, we lost brother Chadwick Boseman, and basically they had, they had to scramble to figure out what they were going to do with the franchise. I can tell you from my standpoint, I think for Marvel, Black Panther was a surprise hit. In blurs for us, black nerds and stuff, bro. We knew that it was a hit. We knew that it was going to blow up because, I have personally been waiting for the Black Panther movie since I started reading comic books. Since I was like 5 years old, I've been waiting for this film to drop. Um, for my first experience with Black Panther in a book uh, was my mom. Here's one of the things: my mom ran out whenever she could. She used to go to the used bookstore. She was a voracious reader, so she go out to the used bookstore and she grabbed whatever comic books that had a black person on it and bring them home. And one of the ones that stuck out to her was a Spider-Man and Black Panther team up. And I can't remember the exact date, but they're fighting a dude that was firing razors out of a helicopter, because Marvel had a thing about helicopters. I don't know what it was in the late 70s, early 80s, but Marvel loved helicopters. And so every villain had a helicopter. And so um, I used to have the dude's name in my memory, but I cannot remember who the villain was. He turned into be kind of a throwaway Spider-Man / Black Panther villain. Anyway, that's the first time I was introduced to the character, and I was fascinated. And throughout the year, runs, I even followed Hudlin's run on it, which I was the biggest fan of. It felt kind of shoehorned, but it's whatever. Anyway, I was super excited about this movie dropping, and I knew that it was going to be a bigger hit than Marvel anticipated. And the wild thing was, I knew that black folks were going to be the ones that push this movie over into the mainstream. I knew it was going to happen. It was just in my mind, like that was it. I knew that our response and us dressing up and us showing up for this movie was going to force it into the mainstream consciousness. And I knew that Marvel did not anticipate it. And we could even see that in um, Infinity War, where they basically erased T'Challa from the Marvel Universe for a movie and then brought him back at the end of Endgame. I don't think that Marvel really quite understood what they had before they saw the movie, and they under anticipated the reaction. Because I even look at it like this: what, it dropped in February, and I understand, the idea that it's supposed to coincide with Black History Month. I don't think Marvel was thinking on that level with it, but it is what it is. I knew how big of a hit the movie was going to be, and it kind of dominated everything. It dominated all spheres because you had OG Black Panther fans that were super into it, and then you also had newer fans that were just really discovering the character. And Ta-Nehisi Coates kind of taking over the book, and it was kind of getting this resurgent attention, which was super dope, right? And anticipation was high for the next Black Panther movie. Like, we wanted to see what was going to happen, who the next villain was going to be, what he did in the Marvel cinematic landscape. Um, and the unfortunate side was, during all this time, Chadwick was ill. And we saw the internet jokes and talking about his physical appearance and things like that. And it just really got to a point where, um, the level of cruelty that some people showed towards him as he was progressing through his illness that we didn't know about was pretty bad. And he trudged through, and I don't know if it was a matter of not really paying attention to what's going on social media. Hopefully that's what it was. But when we lost him, that was one of the few celebrity deaths that really just rocked me to my core. Now, let's fast forward here. We're talking about the new Black Panther movie, right? We're looking at Shuri as possibly the main character. I don't know where this is going to go. I started to see the chatter about recasting T'Challa a couple months ago, and I've seen it intermittently, but it's kind of gotten, as we've gotten more information about the Black Panther movie, we started to see more and more talk about, let's recast him. Why are we waiting? You know, he's a character to be left on the wayside. We can't just replace him. And they're right. People are right. In the comic books, he didn't exactly die off. He was the king of the dead. He lost the mantle. Sure, he took it over for a while, and there was a whole couple of arcs behind that. Here's what I'm going to say. A piece on it. I honestly that the cast and crew, since they were so tight knit, deserve the opportunity to pay tribute to Chadwick on film. I do not think that they need to recast this character immediately, because when we look at Disney and look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it feels like they plan in decades. Like now we're out to 6, 7 years out from potential storylines and movies and stuff. I say give this a little bit of time. I do not believe that they will permanently leave the Black Panther character, T'Challa specifically. I don't think that T'Challa is gone forever. I do think that eventually they will reboot the franchise, and they will have a new director and a new crew essentially, and allow them to kind of start telling their own story in the Marvel universe, specifically in the Black Panther universe. I do not think that there should be a big rush to replace T'Challa. I really don't. I think they need to take their time, make sure that they flesh out the story so that it makes sense. Because in real life, comic book deaths don't really work in real life when you're talking about real actors who have really passed away. It just doesn't work. Um, and so I'll throw out a couple of examples where actors were either one where an actor was incapacitated and eventually died, and one where the actor passed between movies. We'll talk about Christopher Reeves. Um, Christopher Reeves, when he got paralyzed, that kind of, and I think, to be quite honest with you, I don't know if it completely brought it into the original Superman movie franchise. I don't know if that was the thing, or if it was Superman 4, Quest for Peace, which was, listen, that movie dropped when I was like 7 years old. And at 7 years old, I liked everything except the Superman movie. The Superman movie was bad. And if a 7-year-old can tell you this is a bad movie, it's a bad movie. But when Christopher Reeve got paralyzed, that kind of removed the ability for him to play the character of Superman as it was written up. I don't know if I don't know if there were future plans. I know they canceled the sequel because the reception to the Quest for Peace was so negative. Um, back then we didn't. Back then it wasn't real. Hollywood really wasn't expected to maintain storylines and maintain some level of continuity between the comic books and the movies. So the radioactive dude was just this weird hybrid character that just kind of popped up. And he really didn't fit into a narrative of a Superman book. It was just bad all the way around. So anyway, I know that the talking point is, well, they recast Superman. Well, they recast Superman after Christopher Reeves died, but more importantly, it was a new franchise with a new attempt at a franchise with a new director, new cast, new crew, everybody in new positions with a brand new Superman. There was none of that connected to the early Superman movies, but they replaced everybody. And they gave enough distance so that after Christopher died, people weren't feeling some kind of way about it. They're like, yeah, it's been about time. Now, we can argue about whether it took too long, and we can also argue about whether Superman Returns was a good movie. I liked it because it was, in my mind, the way my mind works. I liked it because the tonal shift was so jarring from the second act to the third act. It was really quite impressive. It went from a very kind of boring vanilla Superman movie to Oz, where Superman's getting shanked up, dragged by the face, beat up by Lex Luthor's goons, and you know, he, he was an island made out of kryptonite, which doesn't punch back. It's just there, and he threw it into outer space. He It wasn't exactly a good movie. We have Kevin Spacey in it, who I liked in Lex Luthor, but I can do without him now after everything that's come out about it. Um, I enjoyed it in a weird kind of watching a slow motion train wreck happen. And when I say slow motion, I mean a slow motion one. But they replaced Christopher Reeves way after the fact. New cast, new crew, new director. Everything was new. They rebooted the whole series. Let's jump forward a little bit. Let's talk about the Nolan verse, Christopher Nolan's Batman movies. Heath Ledger basically gave a signature performance as the Joker. It was a transformative approach to the character, and he incorporated a lot of comic book elements from Killing Joke. And I know that he did a ton of research to really get into the character. He put a stamp on the character. When he passed, because I know from reading, the behind the scenes, I know that third Batman movie that featured Bane was really supposed to be the trial of the Joker, and it was going to center Heath Ledger in the role again, and they had to pretty much scrap everything. And as far as they were concerned, recasting him was not an option. They just started over and made a pretty decent movie. The third Batman joint had some flaws, but in my mind, it was a decent movie. I enjoyed it or whatnot. But they didn't recast the Joker until I believe the Suicide Squad film, the very first one that dropped. And again, we're talking about different cast, different crew, different director, different everybody. And even essentially kind of a different Batman. It wasn't even the same Batman. There was a lot of different, like, the connective tissue wasn't really there. You knew that it was in universe, but they set it up so that a different, Jared Leto as the Joker made sense. So the reason why I'm saying that we need to kind of pump the brakes on the big push to recast T'Challa is we're still with the same cast and crew. I do not believe that Marvel will allow the Black Panther franchise to sit in stasis like this. I don't think they will, but I do think that they're going to allow the cast and crew to pay tribute to Chadwick on film because that was important. He was tight with the crew and tight with the cast, and they had a special bond on there. And we could talk about all their actors, they're supposed to be professionals who do this, that, and the third. Okay, whatever. I understand that. But they're also human beings. And I know, and I don't know too much about the internal workings of Hollywood, but from what I'm hearing is you don't really do that where, the major centerpiece star of a movie passes on and you just immediately recast them in the next film. I don't see that. Now, people can get fired. We've seen that. Actors can get replaced because they fail a favor or contract negotiations, or they did something vile, or they didn't really capture the character and they replaced them with somebody else and kept the franchise moving. But we're talking about something that's completely different than main actor dying tragically, beloved actor dying tragically. Um, so, and here's the other side of it. From a corporate standpoint, yeah, they could go out and just recast T'Challa for the next Black Panther movie. I don't think that they're going to, based on when I know that they come out and said that they made the public statement that they're not going to, and I think people are interpreting that statement as they're never ever going to recast, which I don't believe. But I think they're saying we're going to protect our cast and crew. It will be a PR nightmare to alienate this cast and crew of one of the most successful black directed, black centric movie franchises. And I know people throw out Blade, but Blade was the main character, but everybody else was kind of white in that movie. I'm talking about one that had a black director, black actor, black writers, and all across the board. I do not see them mistreating the crew and racking up that level of controversy. Now, I could be wrong, But I think Disney is very cognizant of the PR problems that they've had recently regarding the entire Scarlett Johansson thing, and I don't think that they want to piss off one of their darling franchises. I just don't think they want to do that. Now, I know that the recast T'Challa zealots are probably screaming at the computer screen right now, and I understand. I know how important the character, not just the mantle of Black Panther, but the character of T'Challa is. I understand how important he is to the larger universe. Understand how important he is in relation to seeing Black comic book characters front and center as opposed to just fodder to give so that the white characters can feel something. I understand the importance of it driving, us steering the boat. But I'm saying give it a little bit of time. We cannot just dispose of Chadwick and just slap somebody else into the role of T'Challa without allowing the crew the opportunity to tell their story and pay homage to him. That's how it goes, bro. Sorry. And I know people don't like it, but I didn't um interpret um old boy from Marvel, Kevin from Marvel saying I don't interpret what he said as a forever thing. I'm thinking that he kind of meant right now we're not going to recast and we're going to allow Ryan Coogler and them to kind of finish out the story that they want to tell, and then we will look at what our options are, because the other side to the other side to the other side is and I don't think people quite understand how impactful a movie like or a series like Loki actually was to the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe. But we start seeing in Shang-Chi and stuff like that, where you have all these alternate realities, and we're going to see it play out even more in um, No Way Home. We're going to start seeing the fallout of what happened on Loki. And if you haven't seen it, um, I'm not going to get into the spoilers piece of it, but it changes the landscape of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in a very unique way and introduces, um, a character that a villain slash anti-hero that kind of ties it all together. The idea of the multiverse. And so, we got Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, we got No Way Home, and any future Guardians of the Galaxy movies and stuff like that. I think we're going to touch base on that in those formats. But I don't think that the character T'Challa is on the bench forever. I think they'll probably recast. One that I did leave out specifically that's really notable in the Marvel universe is um, you know, the Hulk, where it started out as Edward Bana, then it was Ed Norton, and now we're at Mark Ruffalo. Those are different. I view those recastings as different than what's happening in the Black Panther part of the universe, because those were contract negotiations. That's not seeing eye to eye on the script. That's a movie not getting the kind of reception that they wanted. And so those decisions to recast I see as different. I don't see it as the same as the Black Panther, the T'Challa one, because Chadwick Boseman died, and it's not the same thing as, okay, the actor who's in this role is not giving us what we're looking for, and so now we're going to change, and we're going to make a studio decision to make a change, as opposed to um, this actor no longer being able to play the role because they passed away. So that's how I feel about the entire recast T'Challa movement. I'll summarize this thing. So I think they're going to recast T'Challa at some point in time. I don't think it's going to be right now, nor do I think they should for the next movie. I think that the cast and crew deserves their opportunity to pay tribute to Chad on film. I think that's only fair because the cast and crew was really tight knit. It wasn't a studio decision to change the character of Black Panther. It was a real world circumstance that happened that was out of anybody's control, and it forced them to go back to the well. I do not think that recasting him for these next movies is the right move. Just don't. I think they need to It's part of the story, and they can reboot, recast, and redo if they want to. They can bring back old characters into um, having a multiverse allows them to kind of play around a little bit more. They could hang, and, part of the college is also the part of style played by. I think they have the ability to kind of weave in there piece of the right decision at this time. So are going to have to say, I mean, uh, the artists about recasting all, sorry, looks like I lost internet again. The wild thing is we upgraded to the deluxe internet through our provider, and our servers got super, super wonky, where it's almost to the point where it's unreliable. So we're gonna have to be giving a call into them, or we need an opportunity to go back and use our old equipment. Anyway, as I was saying, I think that they deserve an opportunity to tell their own story. And I also think they deserve an opportunity to close out this book with this chapter with Chadwick and the original crew, and then kind of figure out what they have with the franchise and where Black Panther fits into the larger Marvel universe. The intergalactic Empire of Wakanda would be an interesting way to move on. And I know that it was kind of teased on What If, but it would be kind of really dope to see that and see how they incorporate that in future stories, where, you know, since Wakanda is the most technologically advanced nation in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it would make sense for them to be the first ones to be really out doing stuff on an interstellar level and having satellite colonies in other places. So it'd be dope to see. I want to see where it goes. But the bottom line to the bottom line is I don't think that they need to jump the gun with this. And I know that people, like I said, online get wild. They'll say the wildest shit to you if you disagree with them about this stuff. But I don't believe that that recasting for this next movie is the move. And that's the bottom line. So like, share, and subscribe. That's all I got for today. I got a couple of things coming up. Let me pull out my notes here. Got a couple of episodes in the chamber that I'm going to do. I might even record them today and post them at a later time. But the next couple of episodes I wanted to talk about, since we talked about recasting T'Challa, I wanted to circle and talk on some parenting stuff and talk about uh, power struggling in Black homes. The straddling the line between being an authority and being a nurturer, um, and how that looks in 2021. Because some of the things that our parents did were really right and it was ahead of their time, and other things weren't. And we are carrying old ideas and wondering why we're still getting some of the same outcomes. So that'll be the next one. And then I did want to do kind of a mini episode about people who argue for fun on the internet. And it kind of goes back into the Recast T'Challa thing. Um, and just kind of talk about how wild, disrespectful people get online for fun. And then this one's going to be a deeper dive. We're going to talk about the hypermasculine paradox, where, um, you know, we have a concept of Black manhood that has so many different opinions on where it should be and what it should represent. And I do think that logical extremes on either side are bad. But I also don't think the answer is exactly in the middle. So those are the next couple episodes I got in the chamber. And I'm be talking some wrestling stuff because I got a lot of wrestling material to go over. So if you like the content, like, share, and subscribe. Let people know that we exist out here. This podcast, if you're listening to the podcast can be found on wherever you find your favorite podcast. It's going to be Long Boxing While Black, but we're going to be rebranding the whole thing to Blerding While Dad. And so that's what's coming up. I will talk to y'all later. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for dealing with the internet issues. I've been watching it drop in and drop out. Leave comments if you see this after I get done streaming, if you see it posted. And we can address it on subsequent episodes, what was said and what points of conversation came up, because I know I'm doing this in the middle of the day. I thought I'd do it in the middle of the day and that would kind of save me from having these internet issues, but apparently I was wrong. So thanks for tuning in. It is Brian with Blerding While Dad. Long Boxing While Black presents Blerding While Dad. I'll holler at you later. Peace.